Chapter 71. Breaking through the three realms with a flick of a finger. Heavenly Dragon's Might Fist. 3. Kui Heng gestured for Hui Shi to get up and led the way. This was the first time the first test subject he had created had displayed his power. He definitely had to see the effect with his own eyes. If something went wrong with the experiment, it would be easier to save him in time. "You want to come too?" Hui Shi was even more touched. He wished he could dig out his heart and offer it to Kui Heng. Outside the governor's office, flames raged. Thousands of armored and armed elite soldiers stood there, all of them staring at the main entrance with fierce gazes. The other 2,000 elite soldiers had gone in other directions and had already surrounded the entire governor's office. Sun Panshi himself was not here. He was worried that he would be killed by the experts in the governor's office. After all, even a disciple of the Lotus Flower Monastery like Hui Shi had appeared. Who could guarantee that there were no other experts here? Although martial arts experts could not resist thousands of elite soldiers, it was still possible to jump across thousands of elite soldiers to take someone's head. He dared not risk it. At this moment, Sun Panshi, Wang Jinsheng, and the others were in a private room of a restaurant more than 100 meters away from the governor's office. This was also where they often used to sit and laugh at the governor's mansion. Later, as long as anyone from the governor's mansion dares to show their faces, kill them immediately. Sun Panshi felt the pain in his arms and said with an extremely gloomy expression, "No matter who it is, kill them without mercy." "We can't kill them directly." Wang Jinsheng shook his head and opened his fan. He looked at the flames outside and smiled. "I've already told these outer sect disciples to shout some words before we take action. Let's say that this new governor colluded with the remnants of King Yan's rebel army and wants to slaughter the people and offer up the city. We want to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens and punish evil. Although the Yan bandits have been wiped out, their reputation is still there. It's enough to mobilize the hearts of the foolish people and save us a lot of trouble. Moreover, Thief Yan has the support of Lotus Flower Monastery, and Kui Heng has a direct disciple of Lotus Flower Monastery in his residence. We're telling the truth when we say that he colluded with Thief Yan. Brother Wang is meticulous and your thoughts are flawless." Sun Panshi was amazed when he heard this and laughed loudly. "This Kui Heng fought a food and salt war with us just to gather the hearts of the people. In this way, not only will he die, but he will also lose the hearts of the people. His reputation will be ruined. Ha ha ha, good, killing two birds with one stone. Brother Wang's plan is brilliant." He was extremely excited. Now, just killing Kui Heng was no longer enough to satisfy Sun Panshi. Only by destroying Kui Heng's reputation could he vent the hatred in his heart. "Someone's coming out!" At this moment, Monk Jing Kong suddenly pointed at the main entrance of the governor's office. "All right, now!" Sun Panshi stood up immediately and looked over, wanting to see every detail clearly. "This is..." After seeing the few people who came out, Wang Jinsheng suddenly stood up and said, "I'll go out and hold the line for you." "All right. Thank you, junior brother." Sun Panshi was extremely excited and did not notice Wang Jinsheng's expression at all. However, Peng Lanji and Ouyang Zhen noticed it. The two of them looked at each other and stood up, indicating to Sun Panshi that they wanted to help Wang Jinsheng. The three of them hurried out of the restaurant, but they did not go in the direction of the governor's office. Instead, they quickly ran out of the city. At the same time, the three of them heard earth-shattering sounds of battle coming from the governor's office. It broke the silence of the night sky. "Damn it! How did this happen?" Wang Jinsheng looked back with an extremely gloomy expression. Chapter 72. Give someone a taste of their own medicine. To the people of Lu County, tonight was destined to be a sleepless night. Ever since night fell, flames had lit up into the sky outside. The footsteps of the soldiers were very dense, like the sound of thunder striking the hearts of countless citizens. Such a large number of soldiers gathering was something that had never happened before. Although the commoners were so frightened that they did not dare to go out, they were still very concerned about the situation outside. Many people would secretly look through the gaps between their doors and windows to see the situation outside. They were all worried for the new governor. Although ordinary citizens had limited access to information, they were not fools. After a month of food and salt war and today's brazen shakedown, they all knew very well that the new governor was on their side. However, it was not easy to stand on the side of the commoners. It would definitely cause those merchants to counterattack. The soldiers who had gathered tonight were probably here to deal with the new governor. I hope nothing happens to the governor. I really hope those profiteers die early. May the governor remain safe. Lawless, truly lawless. Heavens, please open your eyes. Please bless the governor. At this moment, in Lu County, countless commoners were praying for Henyee at home. Everyone prayed for his safety. As for the soldiers outside shouting that the new county governor was colluding with King Yan and wanted to kill the citizens and offer up the city, no one believed them at all. Who would take out so much food to feed the citizens if they intended to offer up the city? In this chaotic world, food was extremely precious. At the entrance of the governor's office, Henyeen's eyes flickered as he looked at the area where the commoners were gathered. He saw a mass of white lights symbolizing love flying over from that side. This was the love that the people of Lu County had for him. Only when one loved someone would they pray for him. Feeling the rapid growth of the seven emotions light around his golden core, Henyee felt refreshed. His efforts over the past month had not been in vain. He had finally welcomed a large-scale increase in the seven emotions. Moreover, this was only the beginning. As long as he destroyed these merchants who controlled the people and allowed the birth of all kinds of businesses, not only would the people in Lu County benefit, but all the counties and towns under Lu County would also benefit. This concerned the livelihood of more than 1 million people. If he could gain the love of so many people, the white light that symbolizes love should welcome a period of rapid growth. After completing all that, the white light should increase greatly. Perhaps it will become the first to reach 1 foot tall, Henyee thought to himself. While he was happy, he was also a little worried. But the black light that symbolizes evil has never increased. Why is it so difficult for people to hate me? Is there any way to make the hate not change so quickly to other emotions? Actually, there were definitely many people who hated him, but most of their emotions quickly turned to anger, fear, and despair. There was not much pure disgust at all. At this thought, he looked at the street outside the county office. Thousands of rays of gray lights floated over. This was a light that symbolizes grief. The thousands of elite soldiers that Sun Panshi and the others had transferred over were killed by Henyee alone. At this moment, the streets outside the county governor's mansion were filled with the sounds of battle. No, to be precise, it was a mixture of screams, cries, and shouts for help that shot into the sky. Because this was Henyoo's one-sided massacre, like a wolf entering a flock of sheep. No soldier could hurt him at all. Be it light weapons like swords and sabers, or heavy weapons like clubs and hammers, they were all useless. As soon as these weapons approached Henyee, the phantom of a fire dragon would fly out from his back. The divine dragon would sweep these weapons away on the spot. At the same time, it burned the armed men to ashes. At the same time, he himself possessed extremely terrifying strength. Even a casual sweep could instantly crush 3 or 4 soldiers. He was trashing the opponents in the truest sense. There was no exaggeration. No matter if Henyee waved his fist or slapped out with his palm, the phantom of a dragon would appear on his arms, wrapping around it. This made him many times stronger. In the face of such power, even refined iron armor was like paper, completely unable to withstand a single blow. The armor shattered with a single slap and were pierced through with a single strike. Even the soldiers wearing them were smashed into pieces by Hui Shi's fists or turned into minced meat. Almost none of them looked like humans after getting hit. He was too powerful. Xu Fenggan, Liu Litao, and Chen Tong were all dumbfounded as they watched Hui Shi slaughter everyone. They watched as Hui Shi surrounded thousands of elite soldiers alone. Was this still a power that a human could possess? Actually, when Hui Shi rushed into the crowd just now, the three of them were terrified, afraid that he would be killed. After all, in the face of thousands of armored and armed elite soldiers, even a top inner-world expert would not dare to charge forward head-on. Moreover, Hui Shi was only a Jiantian cultivator, although Hui Shi had the so-called rune that Kui Heng had given him. No one knew what use the runes had. But now that they saw Hui Shi's increase in strength, the three of them were all stunned. "Lord, this is..." Liu Litao pointed outside in shock and asked Kui Heng uncertainly, "These are the runes you mentioned earlier?" "That's right." Kui Heng nodded lightly and smiled. "It's a small trick I thought of before. It seems like the effects are not too bad." "A small trick? Not too bad?" The three of them were speechless. If this was considered a small trick, then what were Xiantian and inner-world realm experts worth? This was a Xiantian grandmaster killing thousands of armored and armed elite soldiers head-on. Since ancient times, there had never been such a thing. If news of tonight's incident were to spread, it would definitely shock the world. At this moment, Sun Panshi and the others in the restaurant were all dumbfounded. How is this possible? How is this possible? Sun Panshi looked at the street below with bloodshot eyes. He looked at the soldiers who were casually slapped to death by Hui Shi like little chicks and almost suspected that he was dreaming. These were thousands of elite soldiers fully decked in armor and wielding weapons. Furthermore, they all knew martial arts. At the very least, all of them had cultivated to the chi sensing realm. Their strength far exceeded that of ordinary soldiers. It was not a problem for them to kill a top inner-world expert together. Why were they slaughtered like chickens by a mere chi condensation cultivator? Beside him, He Chung Mao and Monk Jing Chong had already begun to tremble. Looking at the scene below and smelling the pungent smell of blood, they felt their scalps tingle and their legs go weak. "Where's young Master Wang? Where did young Master Wang go?" He Chung Mao and Monk Jing Kong suddenly remembered that Wang Jinsheng, who had said that he was going out to hold the line, had not appeared. Didn't he easily defeat this chi condensation realm government official during the day? Yes, Brother Wang. Where's Brother Wang?" Sun Panshi suddenly reacted at this moment and looked around, but he did not see Wang Jinsheng at all. "Peng Lanzi and Ouyang Zhen have also disappeared," He Chung Mao exclaimed, the fear in his eyes deepening. Don't tell me they both ran away." "Even Wang Jinsheng ran away?" Monk Jing Chong collapsed to the ground and muttered, It's over." Facing a monster that could kill thousands of elite soldiers alone, it was impossible for them to have any chance of winning. It was even too late to escape now. Damn it! Wang Jinsheng, you bastard!" Sun Panshi roared, his entire body trembling. He was almost going crazy. However, he couldn't care less about venting his anger now. He flipped the table in the private room and used his lightness technique to jump out of the window on the other side that did not face the street. However, as soon as Sun Panshi went out, before he could escape, he felt an extremely powerful pulling force tug on him, wanting to pull him back down. He looked down and immediately felt his soul leave his body. He broke out in cold sweat and was horrified. Xiantian? It was Hui Shi who raised his hand and used his Xiantian true ki to condense a dragon claw phantom. He grabbed Sun Panshi, who was about to escape, and pulled him down from the sky. Tai Chong Sek's Sun Panshi, you supported the profiteers and harmed the common people. Let's see where you can escape to. Hui Shi roared at the sky, letting the surrounding people hear his voice. This was to reveal Sun Panxi's identity and to give him a taste of his own medicine. At the same time, Monk Jingkong and He Chengmao, who were preparing to escape, were also captured. A moment later, Hui Shi escorted the three of them to Kui Heng and said respectfully, "My lord, I didn't disappoint you." Chapter 73. Heavenly King Hongwu, 200 years ago. Well done. Kui Heng nodded lightly at Hui Shi. Then he looked at Sun Panxi, He Chengmao, and Monk Jingchong and chuckled. "What do the three of you have to say?" At this moment, the three of them were already kneeling in front of Kui Heng. They no longer looked as arrogant as before. At this point, they were already in complete despair. They couldn't even think about escaping. After all, with a terrifying expert like Hui Shi around, it was impossible for them to escape. Now the most important thing was how to survive. Only by surviving could they have hope. Otherwise, everything would be for naught. Sun Panxi's mind raced. What should he do? Threats definitely wouldn't do. If the other party was really afraid of his identity, he would not have attacked at all. In that case, he had to show his value. But where was his value? Wang Jinsheng! Sun Panxi's eyes suddenly lit up. He hurriedly lay on the ground and said to Kui Heng, "Lord, I have an important intel to report. It's something that only I know." As soon as he said this, He Chengmao and Monk Jingkong's expressions changed and they started cursing. "Bullshit! You want to talk about Wang Jinsheng's news, right? I know it too. What do you mean by only you know?" "I know the intel too. Lord, Wang Jinsheng is from Yanzhou. He's from the Wang clan of Langya." The former was He Chengmao, who only retorted and scolded Sun Panxi. The latter was Monk Jingkong, who directly told him what he knew. The Wang clan of Langya in Yanzhou. Other than Kui Heng and Hui Shi, the expressions of everyone present changed slightly, revealing shock. "What do you all know?" Sun Panxi flew into a rage when he heard the two of them. He pointed at them and scolded, "I've been with Wang Jinsheng for a long time and know more than you. I'll definitely be able to assist this lord." Then, he said to Kui Heng with a flattering expression, "Lord, don't listen to their nonsense. These two people have only eaten a few meals with Wang Jinsheng. The information they know is superficial. Only I have a deep understanding of Wang Jinsheng." "Lord, why don't you listen to him first?" Shu Fenggan used his true qi to send a voice transmission and said to Kui Heng, "The Wang family of Langya is one of the 7 distinguished families in the world after all. Their background is extraordinary." "There's no hurry." Kui Heng shook his head lightly and said to Hui Shi, "Bring the 3 of them away first. We'll continue to raid the businesses tomorrow. After we clean up those merchants, we'll hold a public trial together." "Yes, my lord." Hui Shi bowed, then grabbed the 3 of them with both hands. "Lord, no, don't!" Sun Panxi panicked when he saw this situation. He shouted, "Lord, the information I know is really critical." "Yes, I know." Kui Heng nodded and reminded Hui Shi, "Be careful during the public trial. Don't let the people beat them to death. Just leave them alive." Sun Panxi and the other 2 were the culprits who exploited the people of Lu County. Putting them on a public trial with those merchants was more conducive to the spread of the truth. At the same time, it could mobilize the emotions of the people. To Kui Heng, this was a chance for his cultivation to improve greatly. Naturally, he could not let it go. Moreover, questioning the culprits after the public trial would better confirm the comprehensivity and authenticity of the information. After Sun Panxi and the other 2 were detained by Hui Shi, the county governor's mansion finally regained its calm. Only the lingering smell of blood in the air and the dismembered limbs on the street ahead showed that an extremely tragic one-sided massacre had just happened here. "Lieutenant Chen, clean up the streets with your men so as not to disturb the people tomorrow," Kui Heng said to Chen Tong. "If there are any surviving soldiers, arrest them as well to await punishment." Yes, my lord. Chen Tong bowed respectfully before leaving in a hurry. He immediately gave an order to have people clean the streets overnight. After seeing Hui Shi break through 3 realms in a row and go on a killing spree, he became obedient to Kui Heng's decisions and had no other thoughts. The two of you, follow me, Kui Heng said to Shu Fenggan and Liu Litao before turning around and returning to the inner hall. In the inner hall of the county magistrate's office, Kui Heng took a sip of hot tea and asked Shu Fenggan and Liu Litao, "I've heard of the 7 distinguished families before, but I don't know much about it. Tell me more." In the past period of time, he had asked Shu Fenggan and Liu Litao to better understand the overall situation of this world. In name, the Great Jin imperial family was the leader. But in actuality, there were independent factions everywhere. Even the various state overseers who relied on the Great Jin's regime had begun to govern themselves. The entire Great Jin dynasty was basically a scattered and split force. Therefore, apart from the central continent, the 10 state overseers were the most powerful people in the world. But this was only on the surface. In this world, sects and aristocratic families were the main players. Although the imperial court and the state overseers controlled a large amount of military power, the sects and aristocratic families had relied on their deep foundations to infiltrate into various industries. They were involved in hundreds of industries regarding the people's livelihood and the transportation of military supplies, ores, metals, and other industries. If anything were to happen to these industries, not to mention a county or a state, even the citizens of the entire world would be provoked into rebellion, and the imperial court would immediately collapse. Moreover, sects and aristocratic families also had the highest individual martial strength in the world. Even if a single person's martial strength could not compete with an army, he could still execute an assassination. As long as the imperial court dared to attack the aristocratic families of the sect, they would dare to let the current high-ranking officials and even the imperial family die suddenly. Many dynasties had also been destroyed like this. Therefore, there had never been a 1,000-year-old dynasty in this world, but 1,000-year-old sects and aristocratic families were everywhere. The 3 holy lands of the Tao sect, the 6 holy lands of the Buddhist sect, the 13 evil sects, the 9 swords of the world, the 12 gangs of the world, and the 16 families of the world were all outstanding forces. The 7 distinguished families was among the famed 16 families. But in reality, the 7 distinguished families was already a top faction with more than 3,000 years of history and lineage. It was in existence on the same level as the head of the Tao sect, Tao Yi Palace, and the head of the Buddhist sect, the Baolin Buddhist Hall. The other 9 families were not on the same level as the 7 distinguished families. It's said that the 7 distinguished families was the main supporter of the establishment of the Great Jin. Liu Litao knew more about the imperial court. More than 200 years ago, at the end of the Da Yuan dynasty, the world was in chaos and countless heroes rose up. At that time, the founding ancestor of the Great Jin was actually just from an inconspicuous small faction. By chance, he married a noble daughter of the Wang clan of Langya. That was how he obtained support and quickly rose to prominence. Then, he obtained the support of the other 6 Wang families and finally swept through the world to establish the Great Jin. Yes, I've heard of this before. Shu Fenggan nodded. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and smiled. Speaking of which, there's another rumor that I don't know if it's true. Oh? Kui Heng asked with interest. What rumor? I'll explain, my lord, Shu Fenggan replied respectfully. It's said that the 7 distinguished families had suffered heavy losses in order to support the rise of the founding ancestor of the Great Jin dynasty, especially the Wang family of Langya. They were almost wiped out. Moreover, it triggered the martial world calamity more than 200 years ago. Heavenly King Hongwu killed all the deity realm experts in the world. Who? Kui Heng could not help but raise his eyebrows. Chapter 74. Hongwu. The name Hongwu reminded Qui Heng of the founding ancestor of the Ming dynasty on Earth. At the same time, he was also looking forward to hearing more. Could it be that Hong Fugi had changed his name? But if it was Hong Fugi, how could the world's leader become the Great Jin? Had he failed? Liu Litao and Xu Fenggan thought that as an otherworldly immortal, Qui Heng had never heard of Heavenly King Hongwu. Hence the question. After all, that was nearly 300 years ago. Too much time had passed. Moreover, after the Great Jin was established, they strictly controlled the information about the previous dynasties. Naturally, very few people knew about it. At this point, not to mention ordinary people, even a county magistrate might not know. It was only because one of them was a county governor and the other was an expert from a top sect with over 1,000 years of history that they had some understanding. Hence, the two of them looked at each other. They wanted to answer Qui Heng's question, but they could not speak first. Qui Heng saw through their thoughts and nodded with a smile. "Mr. Xu, please continue." "Thank you, my lord." Xu Fenggan first bowed before continuing the story about Heavenly King Hongwu. According to the records of the Yuhua Sword Pavilion, Heavenly King Hongwu first appeared in the 12th year of the previous dynasty, which was 288 years ago. At that time, it was a period at the end of a dynasty, and there were countless revolutionary armies. At that time, Heavenly King Hongwu was the head of a revolutionary army. He was a military officer who could manage 100 people. In his description, Heavenly King Hongwu started from an ordinary military officer. Through accumulating battle merits, he became a commander, a company officer, and then a general, step by step. After he married the daughter of the leader of the revolutionary army, he completely controlled 100,000 troops. After taking control of the army, Heavenly King Hongwu widely roped in the people's hearts. In an extremely short period of time, he gathered a large number of citizens and tied them to his cause. In a few years, he had already developed the army to 1,000,000 soldiers and began to sweep through the world. Gradually, he was titled a Heavenly King. The war at the end of a dynasty inevitably affected the various large sects and aristocratic families. As Heavenly King Hongwu expanded, the interests of some sects and families suffered. Hence, the sect and aristocratic families sent someone to negotiate with him. After the negotiation failed, they wanted to use force and even killed Heavenly King Hongwu's son. This created a life and death feud. Heavenly King Hongwu began to wantonly kill martial artists. None of the renowned factions in the world escaped his wrath. This was especially true for the Langya Wang clan. They were the culprits who had caused the death of Heavenly King Hongwu's eldest son. Facing an army of 1,000,000, no matter how strong their martial cultivators were, no matter how shocking their martial techniques were, it was useless. Their entire clan was almost wiped out. In the end, a deity realm expert took action and brought away a few direct descendants of the Langya Wang clan. Only then did they manage to preserve a bloodline. After that battle, many sects and families completely understood that Heavenly King Hongwu wouldn't care about them at all. Hence, countless sects and families joined forces. First, they defamed Heavenly King Hongwu publicly. At the same time, they used their own strength to gather an army. They even sent experts to assassinate him repeatedly. The many sects and aristocratic families often used this method, wanting to directly resolve the root of the problem. However, no one expected Heavenly King Hongwu to have a peerless divine weapon with him. He could kill a deity realm expert with a sweep of his sword. It was impossible to assassinate and behead him. However, it was precisely because of these actions of the sects and aristocratic families that Heavenly King Hongwu became completely enraged. He personally ordered the death of all the deity realm experts in the world, regardless of which sect or family they were from. An unprecedented martial world calamity was triggered. "That's it?" Qui Heng frowned slightly after hearing this. From Shu Fenggan's description, this heavenly king Hongwu seemed to be just a slightly stronger leader of the revolutionary army. He did not sound like Hong Fugi at all. Back then, Hong Fugi had learned much more from him. After Shu Fenggan finished explaining what he knew about heavenly king Hongwu, he saw Kui Hong fall into deep thought. This made him a little puzzled and nervous. He instinctively felt that he might have said something wrong, but he could not figure out what he had said wrong. The heavenly king Hongwu that Sir Wu mentioned is actually not a comprehensive description. At this moment, Liu Litao suddenly spoke. His tone was even filled with reverence. To be precise, that's just the heavenly king Hongwu in the eyes of the martial sects. Actually, heavenly king Hongwu's true strength isn't in his military strength, nor is it in the divine weapon in his hand. It's in his thoughts, his military governance, and his administrative ideals. During the first 100 years of the Great Jin dynasty, the imperial court forbade anyone from reading through any information related to heavenly king Hongwu. They were afraid of his ideals. It was only because of the recent chaos that there were no more restrictions. As he spoke, a smile appeared on his face. It was a smile filled with admiration. I usually like to read some idle books, so I understand more about this. Actually, as long as you study the history of heavenly king Hongwu carefully, you will discover that he is different from all the leaders of the revolutionary army and even all the emperors and generals from ancient times. There has never been an emperor or a general who would truly stand with the people like him, let alone an army that would never snatch money and food from the people, never humiliate women, and would even pay for food. There has never been a person who didn't rope in the sects and aristocratic families or seek their support. Instead, he targeted them, suppressed them, and even killed them. Then, he distributed the land and property to the troops that were made up of ordinary people. There has never been an army that took the unification of the world as their responsibility. Even the most ordinary soldiers know what they are fighting to protect, and because of their shared ideals, they would never desert the army even if the entire army was wiped out. Heavenly King Hongwu attacked the martial arts sects and aristocratic families not because of a personal grudge, but because he wanted to snatch back the livelihoods and businesses that affected the people of the world from these large factions. Only when the people's livelihoods are no longer controlled by these sects and families can the people live a stable life. And the killing of all the deity realm experts in the world was also for this goal. At the mention of heavenly king Hongwu, Liu Litao seemed to have become a chatterbox as he kept talking. His words were filled with admiration and even contained traces of subtle worship. His eyes were shining. This might have something to do with his own experience. Liu Litao knew very well that he was a timid person who lacked courage. When he encountered trouble, he always wanted to protect himself and did not dare to charge forward. Therefore, while he was the governor of Lu County, he did not dare to fall out with the various sects and families. He could only barely protect the people here so that they could live a stable life and not starve. But the more this was the case, the more he admired heavenly king Hongwu. What kind of courage, what kind of heart was required to pursue such a lofty goal? Only such a person could let the world bloom with such bright brilliance at the end of a dynasty. After hearing Liu Litao's story, Shu Fenggan fell silent. Perhaps it was because of their different positions, or perhaps it was because of the restrictions of the Great Jin Imperial Court. The records of heavenly king Hongwu from the Yuhua Sword Pavilion were indeed too one-sided. So that's what happened? Kui Hong whispered softly, as if he was a little emotional. Then he fell silent and said nothing for a long time. After a long while, just as Liu Litao and Shu Fenggan were feeling a little nervous, Kui Hong suddenly asked, "How did this heavenly king Hongwu fail in the end?" Chapter 75. May all sects and aristocratic families hate me. According to Shu Fenggan and Liu Litao's description, about 270 years ago, Heavenly King Hongwu had already killed almost all the deity realm powerhouses in the world. The various sects and families were either suppressed or directly destroyed. The greatest obstacle had been swept away, and the people of the world also regarded Heavenly King Hongwu as the savior of the world. The rest of the revolutionary armies were nothing compared to them. They were not worth mentioning at all. The Dayuan dynasty was also on its last breath. This was already the eve of victory. It was the moment before dawn. But why was it that in the end, the revolutionary army was overthrown and the new dynasty was established by the son-in-law of the Langya Wang clan? Moreover, the current Great Jin had been established for 261 years. In other words, less than 10 years after Heavenly King Hongwu killed all the deity realm experts in the world, Great Jin established a new dynasty with the support of the 7 distinguished families. This was too bizarre. It didn't make sense at all. Heavenly King Hongwu didn't fail, Liu Litao replied firmly. It's just that because Heavenly King Hongwu suddenly disappeared, the policies that he presided over could no longer continue. They quickly fell apart. There are similar records in the Yuhua Sword Pavilion. Shu Fenggan nodded and said, just before Heavenly King Hongwu suppressed the world and was about to overthrow the Dayuan dynasty, he suddenly disappeared. Dragons can't survive without a leader, and a country can't be without a ruler for a day. Once Heavenly King Hongwu disappeared, their powerful foundation collapsed in an extremely short period of time. Only then did the 7 distinguished families and Wei Kuang have the chance to pluck the peaches. Wei Kuang was the founder of the Great Jin, the son-in-law of the Wang clan of Langya. Disappeared? Kui Heng was slightly surprised and fell into deep thought. He just vanished without warning? That's right, he's missing. Liu Litao nodded with certainty. I've checked countless books and records, but no one has found Heavenly King Hongwu's corpse. I can only say that he's missing. Does my lord want to investigate this? You want to know too, right? Kui Heng looked at Liu Litao with a faint smile. I wouldn't dare. Liu Litao hurriedly bowed and apologized. I was just anxious and wanted to share my lord's worries. All right. I don't blame you. Kui Heng waved his hand and stood up. I'll investigate Heavenly King Hongwu's matter. I'm willing to serve my lord, Shu Fenggan hurriedly said. I'm willing to sacrifice my life as well, Liu Litao immediately kowtowed. There's no need to bow so easily. Kui Heng shook his head lightly and said to the two of them, I'll ask you two a question now. Is it true that the majority of the sects and families in the world has a hand in the livelihood of the common people and are imperceptibly controlling the lives of the world? Not necessarily all of them, but I'm afraid at least 80 to 90% of the large factions are involved, Liu Litao replied. There should be no mistake about that. Shu Fenggan nodded. Be it the sects or aristocratic families, their daily expenses are huge. They need the corresponding industries to maintain their operations. The larger the sect and aristocratic family, the larger the industries. All right, I understand. Kui Heng nodded slightly and said, That's all for now. After the two of you go back, organize and write down all the information you know about the 7 distinguished families, especially the Wang clan of Langya. Give it to me tomorrow morning. Yes, my lord. Yes, my lord. The two of them bowed and left. Kui Heng was the only one left in the inner hall of the county governor's mansion. He returned to his seat and sat quietly for a long time. In the end, he sighed softly and said with a self-deprecating smile, Lil Fugi back then. I was wondering if you could die peacefully of old age. I didn't expect you to actually go missing. You've disappeared, and the immortal Dawn sect has also sealed themselves away. Is there really a powerful force in this world that I don't know about? Thinking of this, Kui Heng asked in his heart again. System, is this world really a high-level Xianxia space-time dimension? Hello, honorable host. As you have activated the Omnipotent Immortal Cultivation System package, the system will serve you wholeheartedly and protect your path to immortality. After testing, it can be confirmed that this world is a high-level Xiangxia space-time dimension. There are countless living beings in the myriad worlds, immortal kings, and countless ferocious beasts. Your growth environment is extremely harsh. Please pay attention to your safety at all times. If you want to increase your safety index, you can choose to continue charging. The system has ridiculous system. Henyee directly ignored the subsequent notifications. At this moment, he already had a rough guess about the situation with Hongfugi and the Immortal Dawn sect. This world that seemed to be at the level of a Wuxia world had a complete inheritance of the 12 realms of the mortal realm. Moreover, it completely corresponded to the 21 realms of the immortal and mortal realms that Pei Qingshu and Li Mingqiong had mentioned. However, this is the Great Jin dynasty, while Pei Qingshu and Li Mingqiong were from the Great Zhou dynasty. In their description, there were also immortal sects, mighty figures, sacred bodies, mystic realms, and other elements that were clearly higher than this Wuxia world. In addition, here in Great Jin, there was also the legend of human immortals descending. The answer was obvious. Perhaps the Great Zhou that Pei Qingshu and Li Mingqiong were in was the upper world of Great Jin. It was a higher plane that was connected to this plane, but there were certain restrictions. Henyee, who had once read all kinds of cultivation novels, easily made such a connection. And Hongfugi's strange disappearance and the sudden sealing of the Immortal Dawn sect was most likely due to the interference of this upper world. If there really is an upper world, then everything can be explained, Henyee thought to himself. Those large sects and aristocratic families that have existed for thousands of years are probably inextricably linked to this upper world. At the same time, he felt a sense of danger. From the looks of it, after that human immortal descends to the world and hears about my deeds, he will most likely attack me or gather the various sects and families to deal with me. Although the human immortal realm should only be equivalent to the Foundation Establishment realm and is nothing much, there are still Earth immortals and even Heaven immortals above the human immortal realm. That might be equivalent to the Golden Core realm and the Nascent Soul realm. There are less than 5 months before the human immortal descends. It's obviously impossible to nurture a nascent soul in such a short period of time. Fortunately, there are still the benefits of the system. Even if a Heaven immortal descends, I can protect myself. Thinking of this, Henyee suddenly had an idea. Should I strike first and destroy all the sects and aristocratic families in this world? In any case, we're destined to be enemies. However, he quickly refuted his thoughts. No, if I directly destroy them, I'm afraid that it won't be a human immortal descending to the mortal world anymore. Instead, it'll become a Heaven immortal descending to the mortal world. It won't be good for me. Even if he really had a conflict with a human immortal after he descended to the mortal world, there would definitely be a lot of time before he became a Heaven immortal. This was enough for Henyee to make some preparations. Moreover, with the strength of these sects and aristocratic families at the deity realm, it was impossible for them to have any effects on a Golden Core level battle. It's good to keep these sects and aristocratic families. Since they're destined to become enemies, I can use them to increase the cultivation of the black light. Henyee nodded slightly after thinking about this and formed a plan in his heart. After a month of food and salt war, as well as today's shakedown and extermination of Sun Panshi and the others, he had collected a lot of the 7 emotions light. The red color that symbolizes joy and the white color that symbolizes love had reached more than 7 inches. Anger, sorrow, fear, and desire were already close to 5 inches. Only the black light that symbolizes evil did not increase much. It was still 3 inches tall. During this period of time, he had been worried about how to collect the black light that symbolizes evil and how to make people maintain their disgust for him. He did not want it to quickly transform into emotions like anger, fear, and despair. Now, he finally had a clue. Those sects and aristocratic families that controlled the lives of ordinary people were the best test subjects.
Chapter 76. Attempting to oppress with power. Although Wang Jinsheng was unwilling, since his uncle had already said so, he could only wait here. Thus, the singing started again, and the dancers started moving again. Then, the music continued. Before long, the sound of horses neighing could be heard outside. Immediately after, there was the sound of a carriage opening and closing. Someone was coming. Wang Quanquan and Sun Liansheng stood up and walked towards the door with smiles on their faces. Wang Jinsheng also followed, feeling a little excited. He had already asked his uncle about this lord's identity. He was Jiang Wanshan, the head of Secretariat of the Imperial Court, and the external affairs manager of the Jiang family in Nunhe. In the Great Jin, the head of Secretariat was the highest-ranking official in the Central Secretariat. He was in charge of drafting imperial edicts and issuing them. Although he was not as powerful as the Minister of Records, he was still a Grand Secretary official. His words and actions could even affect the Emperor's decree. Of course, in this chaotic world, it was difficult for even an imperial decree to leave the central continent. This was just a position in the imperial court, so Wang Quanquan did not take it so seriously. What really concerned him was Jiang Wanshan's identity in the Jiang family of Nunhe, as well as the emperor's edict in his hands. The Jiang family of Nunhe and the Wang family of Longya were both part of the 7 distinguished families. But if the imperial edict was pushed by the head of Secretariat who was part of the 7 distinguished families, it would be completely different. Ha ha ha, Lord Jiang has come on a starry night. I'm sorry for not coming out to welcome you. Wang Quanquan laughed as he invited a middle-aged man who looked to be in his 50s into the house. Greetings, Uncle Jiang. Wang Jinsheng walked up and bowed respectfully. Ha ha ha, so you're my nephew. When I saw you 10 years ago, you were only this big. Jiang Wanshan laughed and gestured at his waist. Then, he sat at the head of the table and asked, "How's your father?" "My father is fine, and he often misses you, Uncle." Wang Jinsheng pretended to be obedient. Back then, Prime Minister Wang was one of the 3 dukes and even recorded official affairs. If not for his efforts, I wouldn't be where I am today. Jiang Wanshan first reminisced about the past before getting straight to the point. I've always been a grateful person. Here's an edict bestowed by the Emperor. It just so happens that this can be used as repayment for Minister Wang's kindness. As he spoke, he took out a piece of yellow cloth with words written on it from his sleeve. He unfolded it and presented the contents to Wang Jinsheng, Wang Quanquan, and Sun Liansheng. Hui Heng, the county magistrate of Jua County, has contributed greatly in the defense against the attack of the Yan rebels. He will be conferred the title, General Wai Yuan. He will be rewarded with 300 taels of gold and an army seal. He can recruit 100,000 soldiers. Hiss. Hiss. When Wang Jinsheng and the other 2 saw the contents of the edict, they could not help but gasp. The title bestowment was actually nothing. The title General Wai Yuan was only the equivalent of a 5th-grade military official. Although it was on the same level as a county governor, it was not enough for them to take him seriously. What was really outrageous was the last point. Permission to recruit 100,000 soldiers. This meant that one could officially amass a private army of 100,000. He no longer had to secretly raise private soldiers, nor did he have to worry about being criticized morally. He could even attack others under the guise of serving the imperial court. He could simply rebel openly. As long as he had this power, the position of state overseer would be at his fingertips, and the immortal opportunity of Fengzhou would be in his grasp. Such a bestowment was actually given to Hui Heng? Wang Jinsheng was furious and jealous. His eyes were red. Why? Nephew looks very angry? Jiang Wanshan noticed Wang Jinsheng's expression and smiled. Don't worry, this bestowment has nothing to do with Hui Heng. This is all yours. What? Wang Jinsheng was pleasantly surprised. Previously, Wang Quanquan had only told him that Jiang Wanshan would bring him great benefits, but he did not expect it to be this. He could obtain the right to openly recruit 100,000 soldiers. Moreover, it was snatched from Hui Heng. This was very satisfying. However, he had some doubts. He looked at Jiang Wanshan and asked, "Uncle, but the decree clearly says. Isn't it up to me to decide what to write on the edict?" Jiang Wanshan immediately laughed when he heard this. He picked up a pen and directly crossed out Hui Heng's name on it. Then, he smiled and said, "A small county magistrate is not like us. He's just a dog. How can he enjoy such a reward? Don't worry, nephew. As long as the thing bestowed is real, there won't be a problem. You can even do that? Wang Jinsheng was a little stunned. He usually felt that he was already very arrogant, but he did not expect that he was still so far away from true arrogance. He could actually rewrite the emperor's edict so easily. It was as if he had just corrected a misspelled word. Jinsheng, there's no need to be surprised. Wang Quanquan patted Wang Jinsheng's shoulder gently and said with a smile, the Great Jin was established with the support of our preeminent families, so we naturally have the right to exercise our authority. As long as you don't fabricate an emperor's edict out of thin air, it's fine as long as you show consideration for the emperor's face on the surface. Don't you think so, Lord Jiang? Ha ha ha. Jiang Wanshan also laughed when he heard this. He said to Wang Jinsheng as if he was hinting at something, as a mere secretariat, I really don't dare to fabricate an edict out of thin air. In other words, it was not necessarily the same for a higher level official, namely a true prime minister. For example, Wang Jinsheng's father, the former Prime Minister Wang. Thank you, Uncle Jiang. Wang Jinsheng bowed and thanked him, pretending not to hear Jiang Wanshan's words. Now, he was only feeling extremely happy in his heart. After all, these bestowments were originally for Kui Heng, but now, he had intercepted them. This made him feel like he had gotten his revenge. He felt so good that he wanted to dance around. So what if you've won the hearts of the people in Lu County? So what if you have a top expert by your side? Compared to a preeminent family like mine, you're just an ant that's only worthy of being casually manipulated. You didn't even know that you had been rewarded before it was snatched away by me. Wang Jinsheng's face flushed red with excitement. He even wanted to jump in front of Kui Heng and mock him to vent his grievance and anger. Lord Jiang, actually, Kui Heng deserved that reward. At this moment, Wang Quanquan suddenly said with a smile. Oh, what do you mean? Jiang Wanshan asked with interest. It's like this. Kui Heng is in Lu County City. Wang Quanquan briefly explained how Kui Heng targeted the businesses of the sex and aristocratic families. There's actually such a thing? Jiang Wanshan's gaze turned cold as he sneered. These bumpkins are really becoming more and more restless. That's right. A mere county governor actually dares to touch our assets in Lu County. Wang Quanquan nodded in agreement. He's simply courting death. Lord Jiang, shouldn't we think of a way to deal with him? Sun Liansheng said with a fawning expression, otherwise, that county governor will probably push his luck. He's only taking a fancy to our assets in Lu County City now. In the future, it might even be the entire Lu County. Yes, we can't leave this fellow alone. Jiang Wanshan nodded and revealed a ruthless expression. Killing him directly is the best way, but that is too easy on him. Since he dares to use the businesses of our aristocratic families to exchange for the hearts of the people, I'll make him lose the hearts of the people and let him be cursed to death by the people. After returning to the capital, I will report to His Majesty that Lu County is adjacent to the Hong River and is at the center of Fengzhou's waterway. It should have become a major trading city, but its current development is far from reaching that level. It can be seen that the county governor's ability to govern is not good. Moreover, the county governor deprived the businesses of generations of merchants for no reason and handed them over to ordinary people to manage. This greatly affected the merchants' enthusiasm and made it impossible for the people to farm and produce food in peace. It's a loss for the country and a disaster for the world. This is all because of the county governor's incompetence in governing. His Majesty should draft an edict to reform the city. The taxes for ordinary people operating shops must increase by 50%, while merchants who have been running businesses for generations will receive a 50% reduction in taxes. This way, the trade in Lu County can recover and the people can farm in peace. It's the best of both worlds. At that time, I will personally go to Lu County to implement the decree. What do you think? Chapter 77. False intelligence causes death. Uncle Jiang is brilliant, too brilliant. Wang Jinsheng could not help but praise. The Great Jin's taxes on ordinary people were relatively heavy to begin with. With this additional tax, those bumpkins in Lu County would probably be unable to make ends meet. In his opinion, ordinary people were just a bunch of lowly commoners. Now that Kui Heng had given them benefits, they would naturally support him and love him. After this policy was announced, they would definitely turn around and scold Kui Heng. The so-called popular sentiment was just something that could be transferred at any time. It was too easy to deal with. Comfortable. How comfortable? Wang Jinsheng couldn't stop smiling. He felt that he could already see Kui Heng's miserable and desperate expression. Wang Quanquan and Sun Pancha also praised with smiles. This policy was also a good thing for them. After all, the so-called generations of businessmen were actually people from sex and aristocratic families. As for how the ordinary people would survive, they didn't care at all. They were just a bunch of bumpkins. If they died, so be it. It was no big deal. Even if there was a fight, it would be at the county governor's mansion. It had nothing to do with them? The banquet was immersed in laughter. The host and guests enjoyed themselves. When Jiang Wanshan left, the sky was already bright. At dawn, Wang Quanquan and Wang Jinsheng also bade farewell to Sun Liansheng and set off for Lu County. However, their goal was already different from their initial one. After hearing Jiang Wanshan's plan, the two of them had already given up on the idea of directly getting rid of Kui Heng. After all, he was just a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. They were not in a hurry to attack him. It would be more satisfying to see him live under the curses of the people after the new edict was issued. This time, Wang Quanquan and Wang Jinsheng went to Lu County for two reasons. One was to save Sun Pancha. After all, he was Sun Liansheng's son. He couldn't just leave him in Lu County. He had to save his life. The second was to get rid of Shu Fengjian. Although the Yuhua Sword Pavilion had existed for 1,000 years, only in recent years did Shu Fengjian appear. His foundation was shallow, and he had never been taken seriously by the top sex and aristocratic families. Now, Shu Fengjian actually dared to help Kui Heng and stand against the sex and aristocratic families. He was simply courting death. He had to be eliminated as a warning to others. Today, Lu County City was much more lively than usual. Just last night, the powerful merchants and the backing of those merchants were all arrested by the governor. The price of food that had soared to 15 times was pushed back down overnight. Countless commoners cheered and walked onto the streets, wanting to thank the new county governor. However, many people heard someone shouting as soon as they left. The complaints conference has begun. The complaints conference has begun. Lord Governor is going to hold a public trial on those profiteers and their backers. Let them explain clearly why they want to go against us commoners. Everyone, let's speak of our grievances. No matter what grievances we've suffered in the past, we can speak freely this time. The governor will stand up for us. The person shouting was a dark-skinned youth. He seemed to be around 15 or 16-year-old. It was none other than Zhao Gaodan, one of the dozen or so soldiers Kui Heng had brought with him when he came to Lu County. His voice was very loud, so people could hear him clearly from afar. Immediately, many people came over to ask. Ads by Pub Future Little Brother, what do you mean by a public trial and a complaints conference? Can we really tell them all the grievances we usually suffer? Are you going to interrogate those big shots? I've never heard of such a thing. How can commoners like us interrogate them? Many people in Lu County had never heard of such a thing and found it unbelievable. After all, in this era, ordinary people could already be considered lucky if they could live peacefully. Their lives were like grass, and they had no right to judge others. Brothers, sisters, uncles, and aunts, listen to me. Zhao Gaodan was very fluent with his words and quickly recounted his experiences in Jua County vividly. He even told them about Kui Heng's political measures in Jua County, especially the details of how he fought the nouveau riche and divided the fields. Many citizens' eyes lit up. Hence, a large number of citizens quickly rushed to the market entrance at the north of Lu County. That was the place where the public hearing was going to be held. Wang Jinsheng and Wang Quanquan, who had already disguised themselves, arrived at the market and stood in a corner. They looked at the crowd of people and listened to the publicity about the complaints conference and the public trial. They felt instinctively annoyed and disgusted. Ridiculous, this is too ridiculous. Wang Quanquan's expression was extremely gloomy as he looked at the public trial platform that was being built. Are they trying to pull Nephew Sun and the others onto this platform and judge them like monkeys? From what they're saying, that seems to be the case. A trace of fear flashed across Wang Jinsheng's eyes. If he hadn't fled decisively back then, he would probably have been pulled onto the stage as well now. What a great humiliation. Wang Quanquan was furious, and killing intent even surged in his heart. He's throwing the face of our aristocratic families and sex onto the ground and trampling on it. This child cannot be left alive. Uncle, don't worry. With Uncle Jiang's plan, that fellow won't live for long. Wang Jinsheng gritted his teeth and said. Yes, he's dead for sure. Wang Quanquan nodded and asked in a low voice, by the way, have you investigated the whereabouts of the thousands of elite soldiers last night? Yes. Wang Jin said with some resentment, it was Shu Fengjian who did it. He directly captured Sun Pancha and killed dozens of soldiers, causing the remaining soldiers to surrender without a fight. They were probably captured and imprisoned in the dungeon. The first thing Wang Jinsheng did after arriving in Lu County was to be sent by Wang Quanquan to investigate what had happened last night. At the very least, he had to figure out how the battle ended after he left. This way, he could rely on how many soldiers Shu Fengjian could kill to determine his strength, making it easier for Wang Quanquan to kill him. Although Wang Quanquan looked down on Shu Fengjian, A newly advanced top expert, he knew very well that it was not easy to kill a top expert. He had to be sufficiently prepared. Only by knowing himself and his enemy could he win every battle. Unfortunately, Wang Jinsheng's investigation results came from the citizens of Lu County. In truth, no one had dared to go out last night. No one saw the real battle scene. Most of the people only vaguely heard the screams outside, and a small number of people heard Sun Pancha and the others breaking out of the window and trying to escape. Even the blood on the streets had been cleaned up by Chen Tong and his men. There were no traces of Henyee sweeping through the army alone last night. This morning, after the commoners went out and saw a clean street, they naturally did not think that a battle had happened. They would only think that the battle had stopped because the culprits had been captured by an expert. Hence, after Wang Jinsheng heard this news, he naturally thought that it was Xu Fengjian. After all, from what he knew, Xu Fengjian was the only top expert in Lu County City. Who else could it be? This was slightly different from the truth. To be able to kill dozens of armored and armed elite soldiers alone, this guy is already stronger than ordinary inner world realm experts. He's not bad. Wang Quanquan believed Wang Jinsheng's words and sneered. But compared to me, it's far from enough. In the end, the foundation of a small sect is still too shallow. Uncle, if you take action, Xu Fengjian will definitely die. Wang Jinsheng smiled. If I can't even kill a tiny Xu Fengjian, I'm not worthy of the surname Wang. Wang Quanquan was very confident. Jinsheng, wait here. Once nephew's son appears, save him. I'll go and kill Xu Fengjian directly to prevent him from causing any trouble. No problem, don't worry. Wang Jinsheng was also very confident. He looked at Henyee, who was acting as a guard on the platform, and chuckled. The guard on this platform was defeated by me. I let him live previously, so I won't let him escape again this time. Yes, we should eliminate them completely. Wang Quanquan nodded and said, be careful to end the battle quickly. Don't fight a prolonged battle. After saving them, leave immediately. I understand. Wang Jinsheng smiled and said, Uncle, don't worry. It's just a mere chi condensation realm cultivator. It's not worth me prolonging the fight. Alright. Wang Quanquan left in relief. He knew Wang Jinsheng's strength very well. It was impossible for him to not be able to deal with a chi condensation realm cultivator. Next, Wang Jinsheng waited patiently in the corner. Before long, the high platform was set up. Countless citizens present cheered. When the public hearing began, one by one, the merchants were pulled up and the commoners stood up to accuse them. In their anger, many commoners even rushed up and beat the merchants to death. What a bunch of unruly commoners. Wang Jinsheng gritted his teeth. His status was inherently different from the commoners. Seeing this situation, he felt especially affected. Finally, after interrogating several merchants, Sun Pancha, who looked haggard and in an extremely sorry state, was pulled up. Henyee had personally escorted him up. It's time. Wang Jinsheng's eyes lit up. Die. He immediately used his swiftness technique and instantly flew onto the stage. He stretched out his arm and threw a punch at Henyee, trying to subdue the enemy in one strike like yesterday. Henyee's expression revealed a bit of surprise. He looked at Wang Jinsheng as if he was looking at a fool. Wang Quanquan did not choose to launch a sneak attack. This was because he knew that it was useless against a top-notch inner world expert. He planned to kill Xu Fengjian head-on. Moreover, in order to warn Kui Heng, he planned to beat Xu Fengjian to death in front of Kui Heng. Therefore, Wang Quanquan came to the county magistrate's office alone and even removed his disguise. At this moment, Kui Heng was discussing with Xu Fengjian and Lu Litao which sects and aristocratic families' businesses to buy over first. Suddenly, he looked up outside. What a strong emotion of disgust. Who's here? Kui Heng was overjoyed. He put down the brush and ink in his hand and smiled. Sir Xu, County Governor Lu, there's a guest outside. Let's go and meet him. Chapter 78, Blowing a strand of hair to form a flying rope, beheaded but not dying. Kui Heng walked in front while Xu Fengjian and Lu Litao followed on both sides. Lord, it's Wang Quanquan. Xu Fengjian recognized the person at a glance and reminded him in a low voice, he's from the fourth branch of the Wang family in Longya. He's not weak. Alright. Kui Heng nodded slightly and looked at Wang Quanquan with a smile. What brings you to my residence? His gaze was very kind, as if he was looking at a wild treasure chest monster. Inner world. This was the second inner world cultivator he had encountered since he transmigrated. Every single inner world expert could provide him with a lot of emotional feedback. At this moment, Wang Quanquan was continuously providing growth to the black light that symbolizes evil. In just a short while, it had already increased by an inch. This was a huge experience treasure chest. You're Kui Heng? Wang Quanquan glanced at him indifferently and ignored him. Instead, he looked at Shu Finjan and sneered. Shu Finjan, do you know what you're doing? What do you mean? Shu Finjan stood up and smiled. I don't understand what you're talking about. As the top expert of the Yuhua Sword Pavilion, you actually helped this fellow harm the members of the sex aristocratic family. Wang Quanquan said in a high and mighty tone. You must want the Yuhua Sword Pavilion to fall into a hopeless situation. Hey, Sir Wang is joking. Shu Finjan shook his head and said with a smile, I'm not a member of your Longya Wang clan, and you have no right to interfere with what I do. Moreover, the governor is as benevolent as the sky. It's also a blessing for the Yuhua Sword Pavilion that I'm willing to follow him. Huh? Wang Quanquan didn't expect Shu Finjan to answer him like this. Moreover, he could clearly sense that the other party was acting without any scruples. This should not be the state of mind that a top cultivator from a small faction should have when facing him. This made Wang Quanquan couldn't help but become vigilant. He thought to himself, could it be that Shu Finjan has some trump card that I don't know about, or does he have some other methods that he thinks he can rely on to defeat me? But even if he can defeat me completely, it's impossible for him to kill me. Whether it's him or the Yuhua Sword Pavilion, neither of them can withstand the anger of the Longya Wang clan. What is he relying on? Could it be? How is that possible? Wang Quanquan suddenly turned to look at Kui Heng and said in surprise, what method did you use to make Shu Finjan, a top-notch inner world expert, follow you willingly? At this moment, he had already realized that he was wrong. Shu Finjan probably didn't stay by Kui Heng's side because he wanted to promote Kui Heng to the position of state overseer and obtain Feng Zhou's immortal opportunity. This meant that Kui Heng had something that could make a top expert from a sect follow him willingly. Moreover, this reason was definitely very sufficient. It could even make this inner world expert not show any fear when facing a top family. He did not believe Shu Finjan's nonsense about following him because of his benevolence. Could it be Deity Realm? At the thought of this, Wang Quanquan's pupils suddenly constricted, and a great fear surged in his heart. He immediately jumped up and ran out of the Grand Governor's office without hesitation. Regardless of whether this guess was true or not, as long as there was this possibility, he would be in danger. Escape. He must escape immediately. As for his nephew, Wang Jinsheng, who was still at the entrance of the market, he could no longer care about him. What was most important at this point was to save his own life. Where are you running to? Shu Finjan shouted and was about to use his movement technique to chase. There's no need. Kui Heng stopped him. At the same time, he opened his right hand and a strand of hair fell on its own. Then, he blew lightly. As if a gust of wind had blown past, the strand of hair flew up into the air, under Shu Finjan and Lu Litao's incredulous gazes. In an instant, this strand of hair turned into a pitch-black rope. It was like a black light that tore through the sky and caught up to Wang Quanquan in an instant, who was running away. What is this? Wang Quanquan was horrified. He looked at the pitch-black rope that was rapidly flying towards him in disbelief. He frantically circulated the true qi in his body and even mobilized the power of heaven and earth to increase his speed in an attempt to escape the pursuit of the rope. But it was completely useless. The speed of this pitch-black rope was too fast. Before Wang Quanquan could escape far, he suddenly felt his body tighten and he fell from the sky. He was tied up. His hands and feet were tightly bound by this pitch-black rope. Other than his neck and head, he could not move at all. Damn it, what is this? Wang Quanquan's forehead was covered in cold sweat. The current situation was completely beyond his understanding. It was not a martial technique that he knew at all, but a strange method that he had never seen or heard of. However, when he saw that there was no one around and no one came to catch him, he couldn't help but feel a little lucky. There's still a chance. As long as I can break free from this rope, I can continue to escape. But then, Wang Quanquan realized that he was actually flying in the air. No. He must have been tied up by this strange pitch-black rope and towed into the air. What exactly was this thing? It could actually carry people and fly? Wang Quanquan was shocked to discover that he was flying higher and higher. Gradually, he even flew to a height where he could see the entire Lu County. This made him feel an unprecedented fear. At this height, even if one was at the peak of the inner world, one would still turn into meat paste if they fell. That is? At this moment, Wang Quanquan's gaze suddenly froze. He saw the scene at the entrance of the market. He saw Wang Jinsheng rush up the platform confidently and used his martial technique to attack the Qi Condensation Realm guard. However, in the next moment, he saw the guard casually raise his hand and slap Wang Jinsheng down like he was swatting a mosquito. After flying for more than 100 meters and shattering through 5 walls, he barely stopped. Then, his head tilted to the side and he fainted. What is this? Wang Quanquan was completely dumbfounded. The current outcome was completely different from what he had expected when he came to Lu County. No, it should be said that they were worlds apart. Why was this happening? Which step had gone wrong? Bang! With a muffled sound, Wang Quanquan fell into the courtyard of the county governor's office. He was facing down and ate a mouthful of dirt. Sir Wang, why are you in such a hurry to leave? Hui Heng walked over with a smile. Looking at the pitch-black rope that was still glowing, he nodded slightly. I've succeeded in creating another spell. Not bad, not bad. Recently, his research direction was to use the laws contained in the power of the golden core to transform into simple runes to strengthen his body. Branding a dragon pattern on Henyee previously was just an experiment. After succeeding in his experiment last night, he tried to engrave the nomological runes on a strand of his hair, which gave the strand of hair extraordinary power. It was enough to bind all living beings below the golden core realm. It was a waste to use it to tie up Wang Quanquan, who was only at the 6th level of Qi refinement. However, this method that was too bizarre for a martial artist also caused Wang Quanquan to feel enough fear to increase the height of the fear emotion light to 6 inches. It was not a bad harvest. Who exactly are you? Wang Quanquan looked at Hui Heng in horror. The experience just now was too bizarre. Even a deity realm expert could not have such methods. Who do you think I am? Hui Heng was still smiling as he looked at Wang Quanquan gently. If you want to kill or torture me, do as you please. Why do you have to tease me? Wang Quanquan did not follow Hui Heng's words at all. He closed his eyes as if he was waiting for death. My lord, these people from the preeminent families are extremely stubborn. Lu Litao leaned over and said, they think highly of themselves. I'm afraid we won't be able to get anything out of them through ordinary questioning. Humph. Wang Quanquan opened his eyes and sneered. I recognize you. You're the former governor of Lu County, Lu Litao. A tiger that fell to the plains is bullied by dogs. Even someone like you wants to humiliate me? My lord, this fellow is seeking death. Shu Finjan could tell what Wang Quanquan was planning. There was another characteristic of the preeminent families. Most of their members could die without hesitation for the interests of their families. Then let's fulfill his wish. Hui Heng suddenly raised his hand and grabbed the air. Crack! Wang Quanquan's neck broke on the spot, and a large head flew into Hui Heng's hand. There was a sudden silence. Shu Finjan and Lu Litao looked at Hui Heng in shock, then at Wang Quanquan, who had already become a headless corpse. They could not help but feel that the world was ridiculous. An expert who had cultivated to the inner world realm and stood at the top of the world, a noble who came from the Wang clan of Longya, had his head removed just like that and his soul returned to the heavens. He died too easily, too casually. Was this the difference between mortals and immortals? My lord. I've caught Wang Jinsheng. Henyee voice suddenly sounded from outside. Then, he walked over with Wang Jinsheng in one hand, as if he wanted to say something. But after seeing the scene in front of him, he swallowed the words that had reached his throat. He opened his mouth and did not know what to say. Damn it, when my uncle comes, I must. At this moment, Wang Jinsheng, who was originally unconscious, woke up in a daze and subconsciously cursed. However, as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw that his uncle had already become a headless corpse. His head was also held in Hui Heng's hand. He immediately screamed, ah! Then, he fainted again. Do you have anything to say? At this moment, Hui Heng suddenly spoke. He actually shook the head in his hand and asked with a smile, Sir Wang? Lu Litao and Shu Finjan were stunned and even felt their scalps tingle. It was clearly noon with a scorching sun, but for some reason, they felt a cold wind behind them. What was he doing? He was talking to a decapitated head? Henyee expression was strange. The scene in front of him gave him an inexplicable sense of familiarity. At this moment, he also noticed that neither the head nor the headless corpse was bleeding. Why, am I not dead? Wang Quanquan's head suddenly spoke. Looking at his headless corpse, his mind instantly collapsed. His voice trembled as he said, just what do you want me to do? What do you want me to say? Chapter 79, Traces of Immortals in Kangcheng, Shadows in the Clouds. Wang Quanquan's head suddenly spoke, immediately making Lu Litao and Shu Finjan feel like they had seen a ghost. They subconsciously took a step back. Even the experienced Henyee felt that this was too ridiculous. After all, the last time Hui Heng took off his own head and did not die. Now, he could actually take off someone else's head and still let them live. This was too unbelievable. It was no wonder that even Wang Quanquan, who was a top inner world expert, could not hold on and broke down on the spot. Who wouldn't collapse in this situation? You should have done this earlier. Hui Heng chuckled. Then, he casually threw the head back to the headless corpse's neck. In the blink of an eye, Wang Quanquan returned to his original state and was still alive. However, the current Wang Quanquan was no longer as high-spirited as before. His eyes were incomparably empty, like a zombie that had lost its soul. "Huishi, bring him and Wang Jinsheng away." Kui Heng waved his hand and said, "His martial cultivation is already crippled, so don't worry about him escaping. After the public trial outside ends, I'll get Chen Tong to interrogate him." "Yes, my lord." Huishi hurriedly grabbed Wang Quanquan and bade farewell. After leaving the county office, Huishi looked at Wang Quanquan's neck curiously and realized that there were no injuries. He couldn't help but exclaim in his heart, "What a miracle." Inside the county office, Kui Heng saw that Xu Fengzhan and Lu Litao's expressions were not right, so he smiled and said, "What's wrong? Were you guys frightened just now?" Actually, he was asking the obvious. He had just collected the green light that symbolizes fear from the two of them. Immortal Venerable's methods are indeed extraordinary. Xu Fengzhan only managed to say this after a long time. The experience just now had already overturned his understanding of nearly 100 years of life. It's indeed a little shocking. Lu Litao had a shocked expression. It's really unbelievable that someone can be beheaded and not die. The divine power of Immortal Venerable is really unbelievable. "It's just a small trick," Kui Heng said casually before turning around and returning to the inner hall. "If not for the fact that I wanted to pry something out of Wang Quanquan, there's no need to do this. Since he's bent on death, I might as well let him die once." He was not exaggerating. Although this method of beheading and not dying looked terrifying, the principle was very simple. It was much simpler than blowing a strand of hair into a rope. From Kui Heng's perspective, the reason why people died after their heads were severed was because the connection between their bodies and the core of their souls had been cut off, and their blood, qi, and vitality had also lost their circulation path. As long as he used his dharmic powers to maintain the connection between the head and body and ensure the circulation of his blood, he would naturally be able to prevent the person from dying even if the head was severed. It was very simple. In the death row dungeon of Lu County City, after a public hearing, Sun Pancha was thrown back in, exhausted. His eyes were turbid and his breathing was weak. He felt like he was about to die. As the external affairs deacon of the Taishang sect, Sun Pancha had been living in Lu County for a long time. He usually acted like a tyrant, so he naturally could not avoid bullying the commoners. Hence, on the high platform of the public trial, countless commoners rushed at him and complained. One after another, one after another. There was almost no break. Being slapped, kicked in the face, stepped on the crotch. The time on the high platform of the public trial was definitely the most difficult time of his life. What was even more terrifying was that this was not the end. It would continue every day in the future. "I should just die." Sun Pancha looked at the wall and had the urge to smash himself against the wall and die. But he quickly shook his head. "No, I can't die. Wang Jinsheng will definitely come to save me. Even if he doesn't want to, my father will definitely find someone to save me." Because Wang Jinsheng had disguised himself previously, he did not know that the person who was sent flying by Huishi as soon as he rushed onto the platform was Wang Jinsheng. However, he soon found out. Bang! A figure was thrown in and landed on Sun Pancha, who was still fantasizing about being saved. "Wang Jinsheng?" Sun Pancha immediately cried out in surprise. His eyes widened as he looked at this person in disbelief. The disguise on Wang Jinsheng's face had been removed. Coupled with his clothes, he recognized him as the person who had rushed up the platform earlier. But before he could figure out what was going on, another person was thrown in. When Sun Pancha saw this person, he subconsciously trembled and almost fainted. He muttered, "Wang Quanquan, it's actually Wang Quanquan. Even he was captured. That's right, how could I have forgotten? There's a monster here that can kill thousands of armored elite soldiers head on. What's a mere top-notch expert? It's over, I'm finished." The reason why Kui Heng kept Wang Jinsheng, Wang Quanquan, Sun Pancha, and the others alive was very simple. In addition to the public trial, he also needed these people to copy martial technique manuals for him to provide reference materials and inspiration for his spells research. This was especially true for Wang Quanquan, who was a top inner world expert. Not only could he obtain a large amount of martial techniques from him, but he could also obtain a lot of secret information. He was simply a huge treasure chest. It would be a waste to kill him directly. Kui Heng left Chen Tong in charge of the interrogation. This captain, who had only wanted to eat and wait for death, seemed to have regained his enthusiasm recently. He was very engrossed in all kinds of things and completed them very well. After a few days, he'd successfully obtained a lot of information from these people. Even Kui Heng admired him a little. At the same time, Lu Litao and Xu Fengzhan had already come up with a plan to enact the decree. the Tan family of Sanhong County, the Bei family of Bei Family County, and the Great Spear sect of Yingshan County? Hui Heng looked at the names on the list and frowned. Why are the first batch to be moved just some small families and sects? It was indeed very small. Basically, they could only be considered some local families or small sects that had just transferred from the gangs. My lord, it'll be smoother if we start from the small forces and take things slowly, Lu Litao explained. If we directly touch the large families and the large sects, we might attract a huge counterattack. Shu Fengjian smiled bitterly. In the face of such a counterattack, the county government doesn't have anyone suitable to send out to implement this decree. No one? Hui Heng asked back with a smile. I think Huishi is very good. Shu Fengjian was speechless. That was indeed the case. No matter where, as long as Huishi went, no one would object to the implementation of the government decree. Then it's settled. Hui Heng glanced at the list and said with a smile, let's start from the biggest. Let the Taichung sect of Taichung County be the first. After the public trial ends, let Huishi go over and implement this decree. At the same time, print it throughout the county. Let everyone know what I, Hui Heng, want to do. Yes, my lord. They spoke in unison. At this moment, Shu Fengjian and Lu Litao already understood. Hui Heng was not lying when he said, may all the sects and aristocratic families in the world hate me. Taichung County. Sun Liansheng was already prepared to welcome his son back. After all, in his opinion, it would definitely be easy for a top expert like Wang Quanquan to save Sun Pancha without any obstruction. However, after waiting for a few days, he did not even see Sun Pancha. That gave him a bad feeling. In the end, Sun Liansheng could not hold it in anymore and sent someone to Lu County to ask around. However, he received news that Wang Quanquan and Wang Jinsheng had been captured. Although he could not understand why this was the outcome, he still decisively headed to Lu County himself. He planned to inform the Wang family of this matter. Bazhou was located in the southwest of Great Jin. The terrain here was special. Only the central region was a plain. The borders were surrounded by mountains which rose and fell, separating the inside and outside. It could be said to be a paradise. Among the mountain range, there was a tall mountain hidden in the clouds. 100 years ago. That tall mountain was once the most precipitous and magnificent mountain in the mountain range of Bazhou. However, on a certain day 100 years ago, accompanied by various streams of light that filled the sky, the tall mountain disappeared overnight. No one ever saw the mountain within the mountain range anymore. That mountain was Kangcheng Mountain, the gate of the former number 1 sect in the world, the Immortal Dawn sect. Ever since the Immortal Dawn sect announced the sealing of the mountain 100 years ago, Kangcheng Mountain had also disappeared from the eyes of the world. Only the villagers living in the mountain range would occasionally see the illusion of an immortal mountain appearing in the clouds. Rumor had it that it was Mount Kangcheng. Every time the phantom of Kangcheng Mountain appeared from the clouds, it meant that the disciples of the Immortal Dawn sect had quietly entered the world. At this moment, above the sea of clouds in Kangcheng Mountain, a beautiful woman in her 30s wearing a green Taoist robe stood among the sea of clouds and was advising the young woman in front of her earnestly. The beautiful woman said earnestly, Ying Ying, you have to be careful when you go down the mountain this time. You can't be too greedy. Your grandmaster said that the delicacies at the foot of the mountain are akin to tempting demons. If you're not careful, you'll be mesmerized. The young woman called Ying Ying was wearing a moon-white Taoist robe and a white jade crown. She looked to be about 20 years old. Her facial features were gentle, her nose was high, and her features were picturesque. Her appearance was very exquisite, and she even had an otherworldly temperament, as if she was a fairy from the heavens. I know. Master, you've been nagging at me for many years. Ying Ying didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she nodded and said, I'll definitely remember. I'll definitely take note of what I eat every day. I'll write it down in my notebook and show it to you when I come back. How about it? Good, very good. The beautiful woman nodded when she heard this. She gently stroked her black hair and smiled. Ying Ying is really becoming more and more obedient. Master will wait for you to come back. Don't be like last time and be a few days late. Alright. Master, don't worry. I'm really just going back to see Big Brother this time. I'll be back soon. Ying Ying bowed to the beautiful woman. Then I'll be leaving? Go. The beautiful woman nodded slightly, but she couldn't help but remind her, Ying Ying, don't be bewitched by the delicacies at the foot of the mountain. However, at this moment, the young woman called Ying Ying had already descended from the clouds. She had flown into the human world. Chapter 80, I really only know how to kill. Chen Tong bowed and thanked him before saying, actually, I don't need 10 days. Recently, my lord has implemented a new decree. Logically speaking, I shouldn't leave for too long. 7 days will do. If it really didn't work out, he could bring his sister to work. After all, she was already in her 20s. She should be able to take care of herself. That was what he thought. All right, as you wish. Hui Heng nodded. He had a good impression of Chen Tong now. He was even considering if he should keep Chen Tong as a captain. Originally, Hui Heng saw that Chen Tong was idling around all day and did not have the enthusiasm to work. He planned to hand the position of captain to Huishi. It seemed unnecessary now. Moreover, Huishi was clearly more suitable to be a sharp knife in his hands to advance specific matters. He was not suitable to participate in management. Chen Tong left happily. Hui Heng also opened one of the books and flipped through it carefully. These 3 books were the Secret Martial Techniques Manuals of the Taishang Sect, the Secret Martial Techniques Manuals of the Wang Clan of Longya, and the information Wang Quanquan knew about the 100-year immortal opportunity. Now, Hui Heng was reading a book about the 100-year immortal opportunity. Although Wang Quanquan was only the person in charge of the 4th branch of the Wang family in Longya, he was still a top-notch cultivator of the inner world realm. He was qualified to participate in the distribution of immortal opportunity and knew a lot of information. First of all, this immortal opportunity was indeed brought about by the human immortals of the upper world. As for the specifics of the opportunities, he could not be sure because it would change according to the thoughts of the human immortals in the upper world. It could be a divine technique, a divine weapon, a divine medicine, an immortal herb, or a divine pill that could extend one's lifespan, so on and so forth. In short, they were basically treasures that did not exist in the human world. This was especially true for the top inner world realm experts. This might be their only chance to break through to the deity realm in their lifetime. Whenever the 100-year period arrived, the chief official of a state could bring at least 3 top-notch experts to hold a sacrificial ceremony. They would then kneel to welcome the human immortals of the upper world. As for whether or not they would be bestowed with immortal opportunities and what immortal opportunities they would be bestowed with, it all depended on the performance of the state overseers and the top-notch experts. Moreover, perhaps due to tradition or some restrictions of the human immortals in the upper world, the immortal opportunities could only be handed over to the state overseers for distribution. Therefore, in this process, the position of the state overseer was indispensable. However, it did not matter who the person in the position of state overseer was. Therefore, every 100 years, any state overseer who did not have any background would basically die in an accident. This was the case with Cao Quan. Previously, Cao Quan had roped in a newcomer top-notch expert like Xu Fengzhan to use his power to protect his life. Unfortunately, he did not succeed in the end and still lost his life. This was why there was the current situation of the county governors fighting for the position of state overseer. It was actually because of the once-in-a-century immortal opportunity. Wang Quanquan had come to Fengzhou for the same reason. The Wang family of Longya occupied Luzhou. The distribution of immortal opportunities in the entire Luzhou was basically out of his reach. Most of them would definitely be obtained by the Wang family. Thus, there was actually no need for them to covet the immortal opportunities of other states. However, the Wang family's internal distribution was different. As the head of the 4th branch, Wang Quanquan could not get much at all. Naturally, he placed his attention on Fengzhou, which was suddenly empty. He wanted to use his power to support a governor to ascend the position of state overseer and use this favor to obtain a huge portion of the immortal opportunities in Fengzhou. He planned to break through to the deity realm and leave the main lineage to establish his own sect. However, it was not easy to push someone to the position of state overseer. At the very least, one had to obtain the support of a peak faction like the Dao sect's first Dao Palace, the head of the Buddhist sect's Baolin Buddhist Hall, or 2 of the distinguished families from the 7 distinguished families. Then, they had to be recommended by the current other state overseers of the Central Plains. Only after receiving the emperor's approval could the new state overseer take office. Of course, unless the imperial court's decree was approved by the important ministers from the 7 distinguished families, it would be almost impossible for it to leave the central continent. Furthermore, the election of the state overseer required the support of 2 families from the 7 distinguished families. Therefore, most of the recommendations would be omitted. At most, he would set up an altar and burn the recommendation letter in the direction of the central continent. It was precisely because of these reasons that Wang Quanquan brought Wang Jinsheng along. Although Wang Jinsheng was not the direct descendant of the Wang family of Longya and was only the eldest son of the 3rd branch's head, his mother was from the Xie family of Mount Ping, and his grandmother were from the Yi family of Jiangnan. His father was also indebted to Zhang Wanshan, the current head of secretariat of the Zhang family of Nunhe. He could contact 4 of the 7 distinguished families alone. In the process of electing a state overseer, he was extremely useful. This Wang Jinsheng actually has such an identity. Could this be the key information that Sun Pancho wanted to use as a bargaining chip? Kui Heng suddenly laughed when he saw this. In that case, this Wang Jinsheng can't be killed easily. Just holding this person would attract the hostility of 4 preeminent families and the hatred of several top-notch families. How much black light that symbolizes evil could he obtain? This was simply a top-grade monster luring machine. This was definitely an unexpected gain. Kui Heng had originally planned to directly kill Wang Jinsheng after the public trial. Fortunately, he did not. Otherwise, he would only gain the emotions light for fear or anger. Then, Kui Heng flipped through the other 2 martial techniques manuals and focused on what Wang Quanquan had copied. This was the martial arts inheritance of the Longya Wang clan. Perhaps he could glean some information about the deity realm from it. So far, he had never seen a true deity realm expert, nor had he seen any deity realm martial techniques. The deity realm was equivalent to the 7th to 9th levels of chi refinement. It was just a guess he made based on the fact that inner world cultivators were only equivalent to the 6th level of chi refinement. Why are the martial techniques Wang Quanquan knows only limited to the inner world realm? Kui Heng was a little disappointed after roughly flipping through it. Could it be that even a large clan like the Longya Wang clan only passes the cultivation of the deity realm to the main branch of the direct line of descent? This was indeed extremely likely. In this martial arts world, the core reason why the direct descendants of the main lineage could maintain their status was none other than to widen the gap between them and the other branches in terms of resources and martial arts inheritance. After the new government decree is implemented in Lu County and I obtain a wave of disgust, if the Wang family of Longya, the Yi family of Jiangnan, and the Xie family of Pingshan don't find trouble with me, I'll go and borrow some secret manuals from them to take a look. Kui Heng made a decision. At the very least, before the so-called human immortal descended into the world, he had to figure out what realm the deity realm and human immortal realm were equivalent to. Only then could he estimate the level of the earth immortals and golden immortals. I wonder how Huishi is doing? He looked up in the direction of Taichung County and felt that he could already see a scene of heads rolling and rivers of blood flowing. Taichung County. Huishi had been here for 3 days, but there was still no progress. Actually, on the first day he arrived, he had already found the county magistrate here and explained Kui Heng's intentions. He wanted the county magistrate here to follow the governor's decree and put up a notice to explain the contents of the decree to the people. The county magistrate promised that he would do as he was told. Huishi did not take action directly. Instead, he waited quietly for news. But now that 3 days had passed, not to mention implementing the decree, there wasn't even a single notice. Zhao Wai, do you think that I'm too kind? Huishi asked a middle-aged man beside him. This person was Zhao Gaodan's third uncle, Zhao Wai. He was also one of the soldiers who followed Kui Heng to Lu County City. Due to his good performance and diligence, he was transferred to Huishi's side as a personal guard. Sir, you're indeed kind-hearted. Zhao Wai nodded and said, in the past 3 days, I've secretly visited many families and heard many things about the Taishang sect bullying the commoners. They've kidnapped women, raped young girls, bullied people in the fields, and so on. The Taishang sect has done all of them. Such a sect is completely the local tyrant of Taichung County. They should be killed directly. Ha ha, Zhao Wai, are you mocking me? Huishi looked at Zhao Wai in surprise and said with a smile, I remember that you weren't like this before. In the past, when I was a refugee, I had to be a little timid in order to protect myself. I didn't dare to say too much. Zhao Wai had his own reasons. Now that I'm following you, sir, you asked me to speak frankly. You said that this was to remind you, so I naturally did as you said. Yes, that's right. You did the right thing, Huishi said with a nod. Originally, I wanted to show off my ability other than killing people so that the governor would see that I didn't just know how to kill people. That's why I waited 3 days. From the looks of it, I was wrong. I, Huishi, really only know how to kill. Let's go, follow me to the county magistrate's office. Let me see how tough that fellow's neck is. He actually dares to disobey me. In the inner hall of the Taichung County office. The county magistrate, Qian Fangkong, was a little uneasy. He said to Song Ming, who was beside him, do you think we'll anger the county governor by doing this? It's said that this new county governor has started a massacre in Lu County and raided many big merchants. Lu County City was more than 400 kilometers away from here, and information was not transmitted every day. Now, they had just received the news that Kui Heng had ordered a city raid in Lu County. They had not even heard about the public trial yet. County Lord, you're thinking too much. Song Ming smiled calmly. Think about who those big merchants have backing them. They're either from large sects or large families. Since ancient times, the people with real power in the world have always been them. Take our Taishang sect for example. You wanted to seek an audience with them to discuss the decree from the governor, but you couldn't even get through their main gate. That governor dared to risk the world's condemnation and openly offend these large Saxon families. I'm afraid he won't live for long. Yes, that's right. Qian Fangkong heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. He nodded repeatedly and said, that's right. These large Saxon clans are the true rulers of this world. I wonder what that new county governor is thinking. He actually issued such a decree to forcefully purchase the businesses of the Saxon families at 10% of the price. This is called eating arsenic. Songming sneered. They feel that they've lived too long. Bang! At this moment, the door to the inner hall of the county office was kicked open. Huishi walked in with a bloody steel saber. His cold gaze swept across Qian Fangkong and Song Ming as he asked, "Who were you two talking about just now?"